big issue last night. Oh, we're going live.
Hi, we're live.
Okay, well, that will call the meeting to order. Has attendance been taken?
Roll call has been taken.
Thank you. The committee knows, but I'd just like to remind the viewing public of a few procedural rules for our virtual meetings in operating as efficiently as possible. All members will be muted for the meeting to reduce feedback. All web cameras for committee members shall be turned on to assure that and track quorum. Staff will be requested to join the video meeting should the need to answer questions of members of committee arise. Any member of committee should indicate they wish to speak by pressing the raised hand button on the bottom of the screen. Clerk staff will lower the hand when you have been recognized by the chair for your speaking opportunity. In the event of a connection or service interruption occurs that affects quorum of the committee, we may recess the meeting for up to 15 minutes to regain quorum. If quorum is not achieved, the meeting will be adjourned. All members of committee participating via online video conference will vote using eScribe, and the clerk will announce the vote results. Members of the public who registered as delegates are now able to take part electronically via webcam or via the telephone for the meetings. All rules for delegations under the city's procedural bylaw continue to apply. Members of committee, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest for items appearing on the agenda? Seeing none. Members of the committee, please note that item 5.1.1 2020 audited consolidated financial statements will automatically be separated as there be a presentation for this item. Members of the committee, are there any other items for consideration or consent items that you wish to be separated for discussion purposes? Councillor Vanderstel.
Thank you, Chair Martin. Yes, 5.1.2, 5.1.3. Thank you.
Okay, are there any others? Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder for all items for consideration and consent not separated for discussion purposes? Councillor Utley, thank you. Councillor Vanderstel. Okay, with no further separation, I'll call a vote on all items for consideration and consent.
So just prior to the vote to confirm, all of the items subject to the vote are as follows. 5.1.4, 2020 year-end operating budget surplus. 5.2.1, Treasurer's annual report on lease financing agreements for 2020. 5.2.2, Treasurer's investment report for 2020. And 5.2.3, the minutes.
Mine is a yes.
Thank you.
Should be up and running in a minute here.
And the separation of items for consideration and consent for discussion purposes carried on a unanimous vote. Those voting in favor, Mayor Davis, Councillor Vanderstel, Councillor Martin, Councillor Utley, and Councillor Carpenter.
Okay, we now have a presentation on item 5.1.1 from Jennifer Chowhan from Millards. You will have 10 minutes inclusive of questions from the committee. Please introduce yourself and begin your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jennifer Chowan. I'm a partner with Millards. Thank you for having me today. I'm also here on behalf of Julie Bates. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to join us. I am here to review the two items you received in your package. So those are the report to members of the Finance Committee and the audited financial statements. We'll start with the report to the members of the Finance Committee. So it is actually page 46 of the Finance Committee package. The report provides a high-level overview of our audit and the audit scope and responsibilities laid out in our independent auditor's report. In particular, our audit is conducted in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards, with the objective of expressing an opinion as to if the financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the consolidated financial results of the city in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. Management of the city is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with PSAP. And for such internal control, management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. Those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the city's financial reporting process. Our objectives as auditors are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the consolidated financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion. It's important to note that reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but is not a guarantee that an audit conducted in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. The report, if we advance a couple pages further, also reaffirms our independence as confirmed to you as part of the audit planning in December 2020. Sorry, I think we're in the financial statements right now, but that's okay. We'll keep going with the items I'm covering from the report. In terms of the responsibilities of management, this includes the preparation of financial statements and in particular selecting the significant accounting policies used in the preparation of the financial statements and for applying judgment in preparing the accounting estimates contained in the financial statements. As part of our audit, we obtain representations from management and we also obtain a formal representation letter at the conclusion of our audit. The report also goes on to highlight any reportable matters in terms of significant accounting policies. Management has represented to us that there have not been any material changes in accounting policies in the year. We utilized materiality during the conduct of our audit to evaluate misstatements identified. These can occur when we don't agree with the amount, classification, presentation, or disclosure of items in the financial statements. And in conducting our audit, we may identify misstatements that require adjustments to the recorded amounts. These adjustments are discussed with management, who in consultation with us determine if an amount should be recorded. We did not note any misstatements arising from fraud or other irregularities. As noted earlier, management's responsible for the design and operation of an effective system of internal control. And while we possess an understanding of the city's operating environment, a financial statement audit is not designed to provide assurance on internal control. However, we're required to communicate any significant deficiencies in internal control. During the course of our audit, we did not discover any significant deficiencies in internal control. Our audit also did not reveal any fraud, illegal, or possible illegal acts. However, we note that the probability of detecting such acts is not high. And finally, we wish to report that we received excellent cooperation from staff and management of the city. To our knowledge, we were provided with complete access to the necessary records and documentation. There were no limitations placed on the scope of our audit, and we did not encounter any difficulties in the performance of our audit. Finally, the report also addresses current accounting and reporting developments for your information as well. So we'll go to the audited financial statements now, which are page 8 in the agenda package. So if we can just go back to the audit report, please. If we can go right there. Yes, thank you. We've already spoken about this, but I will highlight the opinion paragraph, which is right at the start. In our opinion, the consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the city as at December 31st, 2020, its consolidated results of operations, its changes in net financial assets and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards, which is a very long way of saying that it is a clean opinion. If we can advance the 2 pages now to the consolidated statement of financial position, please. Thank you. So this is page 10 in your agenda package. Overall, the consolidated financial statements contain the results of the city's operations and of committees and local boards for which the city has control. So these include the Brant and Brantford Local Housing Corporation, the Brantford Downtown Business Improvement Area, the Brantford Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation, the Police Services Board, and the Public Library. The John Noble Home is operated jointly by the City of Brantford and the County of Brant, and therefore is consolidated on a proportionate basis. And the results of Brantford Energy Corporation are also included in the consolidated financial statements on a modified equity basis as required by public sector accounting standards. So you'll note, to take a very brief overview of the consolidated statement of financial position, that it presents consolidated financial assets disclosed by significant line items like cash, taxes, and accounts receivable, investments, along with the investment in Brantford Energy Corporation. It presents the consolidated financial liabilities of the city, which in addition to the standard accounts payable and accrued liabilities, deferred revenues, also includes liabilities for post-employment retirement benefits, liabilities for landfill closure and post-closure, estimated remediation costs for contaminated sites, amounts payable in due for the boundary adjustment, and net long-term liabilities. You'll note the financial assets less the liabilities represent the city's consolidated net financial assets of approximately $158 million. The non-financial assets include tangible capital assets, inventories, and prepaid expenses. The tangible capital assets are a significant asset and include the city's land, buildings, machinery, equipment, and infrastructure assets. The city has consolidated net assets of approximately $935 million. If we advance to page 11, please, for the consolidated statement of operations. This presents the city's consolidated revenues by significant sources. So this includes taxation, user charges, government transfers, and other revenue. It presents expenses by function. We won't go to it, but I'll just reference that the schedule of segmented information also provides details about expenses by nature, and that's page 44 in your agenda package. The net result is the city's annual surplus from operations this year is approximately $22 million. I'll also note that budgeted amounts are presented on this page. The budget amounts are required to be presented in accordance with PSAB. And so it's important to refer to note 24, which describes how the city's net approved budget of zero is transformed to comply with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So with that, very brief overview. If you have any questions regarding our approach to auditing the amounts and disclosures of the financial statements, I'm happy to respond to them. I can also respond to questions about the amounts in the financial statements with commentary from staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Councillor Carpenter, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the page 10, the consolidated statement of financial position, the cash and cash equivalents. Last year we had 63 million. This year 120 million. Does that mean we have a lot less invested? Is this what we're talking about?
I can take. I've noticed the treasurer had the director of finance is on mute.
Sorry about that. I'll jump in here. Through you, Mr. Chair. The cash and cash equivalents line did increase significantly from 63 million to 120 million, but there also is a corresponding decrease in our investments line, which is about the sixth line down.
Yeah.
So overall, our investments, just the cash and cash equivalents, there's more invested in the short term in our high interest savings accounts than in our long-term investments. But overall, the total portfolio has increased by only about $20 million.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was wondering if that was equivalent. The other one would be land held for resale. Last time this was done in 2019, we had no land held for resale. What's the 439,684 for land held for resale? That's a new item.
Chair, this is just the book value of two pieces of property that were initially held at year-end last year for city purposes, which are now looking at being sold. So that would be the remaining book value of the Arrowdale property, as well as the south side of Coburn, which is being promoted as the Prominence Point. So we can no longer hold those in inventory. They were reclassed to lands held for resale.
Okay, I was wondering if that was the case. Now, when I look at the investment notes for Brantford Energy Corporation, Brantford Power, Brantford Hydro, Does that total mean that the value was $70 million? This is an asset value, right?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is the value of our investment in Brantford Energy, which includes all of the corporations reporting to Brantford Energy. Our investment in that corporation is made up of a large promissory note made to both companies of approximately $25 million that we're currently earning interest on, with the remaining equity position of the corporation subject to dividends that we are paid annually.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's my questions.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for an excellent presentation.
Thank
And we'll call the vote on this item.
Sorry, just prior to taking the vote, we just need a motion to place all separated items on the floor. We did vote on the items not separated, but we'll just need a vote for that.
Okay, moved by Councillor Utley. Thank you, and seconded by Mayor Davis. Okay, so it's on the floor. No further questions on this item. We'll vote on 5.1.1.
Item 5.1.1, 2020 audited consolidated financial statements carries unanimously on a recorded vote. Those voting in favor, Mayor Davis, Councillor Vanderstelt, Councillor Martin, Councillor Utley, and Councillor Carpenter.
Okay, that brings us to 5.1.2. Councillor Vanderstelt, you asked for that one to be separated. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Martin. Yes, a solid thank you to Danielle, Patrick, and Joelle for putting this together in short order. I commend you for the work you did in bringing it to weekly reading in an attempt to stop what we were watching and witnessed a couple of times on council where a high water bill was indeed the case, albeit, extenuating circumstances as a result of COVID, but to tighten up that reporting structure and that information pipeline that we're working on with our residents, so as to stop the these exorbitantly high water bills for people who can't necessarily afford them. I really appreciate the hard work you put into that. Now, there is one thing that I'm hoping that we may have access to, and that is the data. So I'm assuming, based on these changes that we're going to make, we're going to see a significant change in the amount of wasted, and that comes at a dollar value as well. I'm wondering whether or not, based on how many incidents of this type that we've recorded in the last year, if we have a ballpark figure of what that is, what the dollar value is attached to that. And there's a bigger part of this as well. If you could bring it to committee of the whole or council, this information, I'd also like to make sure that we know how much was lost outside of the normal infrastructure problems that we have. We get reported on them quite often, including the one that happened on Greenwich, which was quite a large one. But if we could, it's an environmental concern, in my opinion. We draw our water from the ground, we clean it, and it seems to disappear down our drain sometime. But this takes a bite out of that loss. So if we could see the amount that we are saving in terms of water costs, the amount the residents are saving in terms of what they will not have to pay as a result of tightening up, and how much water we've actually lost in the last year, that would be wonderful, because I'd like to bring that to council's attention and the public's attention as well, to see the kind of good work that we're doing together here. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two questions. One, I know there was reference to it, that strikes me that sometimes when somebody hears their toilet leaking, they may not jump to the top of their list of things to pay attention to. I'm wondering if we're going to do a public relations campaign, a circular with bills, kind of focusing on toilets, because toilets clearly are the big issue or the main issue. And, Facebook, that sort of thing. It's going to be fairly robust, because I think what we want to do is prevent this and have people get right on top of water leaks when they hear their toilet leaking.
Yes, through the chair, that is an excellent point. Customer education is very important, because even though we have done a little bit of education on this point, more is better. Customers just don't realize how much a leaking toilet can waste. It's unbelievable, truly. Up to the latest one I saw was $7,500 worth of water in a 2-month billing period for one leaking toilet. So definitely we will include additional promotion of that through Selvi's group, who handles that. I think she's planning to do more.
Something very descriptive of the toilet. This leaking toilet can cost you thousands.
Yes. And I think Selvi's
Mayor.
got that on the go. Selvi's got that on the go, that campaign.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, through you, Chair, to Mr. Mayor. We do have the campaign going, but we are already adding more to our campaign, probably looking at a video and making it easier for people to understand what this means. So definitely it's on the way.
Yeah. Second question is, so to hire an additional person to go through the bills and whatnot, how would they spot the irregularities? They'd have to almost go through it by hand, don't they?
Well, no, we do have systems in place. So our customer information system does provide reports based on, the parameters we put in place. And because we'll be doing a more frequent reading, we'll be able to catch these amounts sooner. So we're hoping that the combination of more detailed analysis of these accounts we'll be catching them, and as well as catching them sooner, because it won't be a month going by, we'll be able to reduce the high bills.
Yeah.
And then, of course, maybe communicate, in different ways, not just leaving a hand-delivered notice, but hopefully through texting and email as well, to make sure that the customer is aware what's going on with their usage.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Danielle.
Thank you. Councilor Carpenter, you have the floor.
Thank you. Danielle, thank you very much. This is a long time coming. I know we've been talking about this for years. And Selby, thank you as well. This really is a long time coming. The bi-monthly billing is, or every 2-month billing is just not working. Savings of, I think, about $40,000 in postage at the same time, costing tax residents a lot of money. With a leaky toilet was a good example. You've seen the number of complaints. So this is going to resolve a lot of those complaints for sure. So thank you. I noticed, though, the question that I would have, first of all, the first question, this cost for all this comes out of the water budget itself, does it not?
Yes, that's right.
Yes, okay, so it's not the taxpayers, it's the water user paying for this. Okay, secondly, when you talk about marketing, as the mayor touched on, I noticed you're looking at a number of municipalities have such programs in place. I mean, your research went quite a ways. Is there a possibility to connect with those other municipalities that are having this exact same problem and seeing if collectively they want to do a sort of an Ontario, Southern Ontario kind of marketing program that would cost us, we could chip in a couple of dollars, and everybody chipping in would be better for people to understand what a leaky toilet can do. You could give simple examples, water bills this much money, or water costs this much a glass, 2 cents a glass, but if it drips on your toilet, you show how much you could lose in a week and a month, and how much it costs. Very simple things like that. Reader's Digest kind of version will make people understand how important it is. And you could even maybe something would show here's the cost to replace that valve, and here's what, which is really just a flapper valve. They go all the time. You got to replace them constantly. And if people aren't doing it, they're losing water. Even if they can't hear it, they may be losing. Their bill may be up simply that they don't even notice it being up. Maybe it's only $10 a month because of that valve, or $20 a month, but replacing it will save them money. Just thank you for the program in general, and for listening to council and to the public. I really appreciate it. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions or comments, we'll call the vote on this item.
Item 5.1.2, high water bill reduction program has carried unanimously on a recorded vote. Those voting in favor, Mayor Davis, Councillor Vanderstel, Councillor Martin, Councillor Utley, and Councillor Carpenter.
Okay, brings us to 5.1.3. Councillor Vanderstel, you asked for this one as well.
Thank you, Chair Martin. Yes, so the return of the funds from the automated heat management system to the reserve account, RF 0473. What, Joelle, if I may ask, what is the current balance of that account?
Through you, Mr. Chair, table 2 of the report indicates that once those funds are returned, the balance in that reserve will be $2,101,401.
Okay. And exclusively that set of funding is used for these types of HVAC or building maintenance issues? Or are there larger parameters to what we can use that funding block for?
So the reserve is established and is really used for capital maintenance at our local housing corporation properties. So all of those properties that were devolved to us from the province back around 2000, that is the reserve. It's city county cost shared, and it goes to capital maintenance and repairs at those LHC properties.
And based on the amount of how buildings we have and operate, is this historically low? Should it be topped up, or is it in danger of not covering our needs?
You know, traditionally it is sufficient to meet the needs currently. We're currently though updating as part of our asset management plan, our building condition audits, and through that exercise, you know, it's maybe going to identify needs that perhaps we haven't planned for. You know, just like any other capital reserve that the city has, they are largely underfunded overall for the capital needs of the city and the varying service areas.
Okay, well, thank you. That leads into my next question. So as far as the current asset management plan that we have in place to deal with, you know, needs as we know they will arise, the proper mechanism for newly found unmet needs, would that be through finance or that be through housing? What direction would you appreciate a member of council taking should an emerging issue arise that isn't listed with our current stratagem of asset management?
Through you, Mr. Chair. If I understand the question, I think what you'll probably see as we continue to roll out steps of our asset management plan, you know, currently we're identifying all citywide assets, developing condition of those assets, and then eventually through legislation, we're going to be required to look at replacement values and then a fund